Hi, I'm Danger Dan Jers, the host and GM of the D&D Real Play podcast, D&D Dark. Join us on Wednesdays for an absurd, over-the-top comedy horror adventure, starring some of history's most infamous monsters.
I'm Ben Magnet. I play Mary Frankenstein, our barbarian.
I am Daniel Cruz. I am playing Imhotep the Mummy, our cleric.
I'm Jordan, and I play Larry Talbot, a lycanthropic warlock.
I am Grayson, playing Jet Griffin, the Invisible Man, the party's rogue.
I am Aaron. I play the Phantom of the Opera, our bard.
For more information, go to dndarkpodcast.com and listen to us anywhere you find podcasts.
Listen up, nerds. We're doing pen and paper stuff. The Paladins of Podcast are back. And rolling the dice on new content, upgrades to nothing, and a few missing pages from the rule books. Introducing Joshua Johnson, the man behind... Wait, where did those notes go? Follow Rob and Josh as they navigate the Outer Planes and anywhere in between on the Epic Table Games audio show.
What's up, everybody? This is Rob, the Paladin of the Podcast with Epic Table Games audio show. I am at GenCon for Best Days in Gaming, and today we're going to have a quick special episode for you with a developer of a game I've really been interested in since I found out about it, and I know I've talked about it on the show before. I'm actually going to turn it right over. He'll introduce himself and give you some introductions. So, if the floor is yours, surprise the guys.
Hi, my name is Amit Moshe. I'm the creator of City of Mist and the founder of Son of Oak Game Studio. I've been doing this for the last 6 years or so, and ever since we kind of kickstarted the first game through breaking up the game into 2 books and creating expansions and kickstarting a couple of other games based on the engine. I guess I started role-playing games as a kid. I got the red box for Dungeons & Dragons.
Nice.
Or actually a friend got it, and we started. But very, very fast, like 2-3 years later, I realized I needed more flexibility in my games.
Okay.
So I moved up a little bit to Champions, Hero System 4th edition, like super, super crunchy.
Yeah.
But it did give me the flexibility that I wanted for a while. And then later in life, I encountered more narrative games, and suddenly I was like, oh, so I don't have to have like a degree in math to play these games.
Right.
And I really loved a lot of the ideas behind it, and I kind of got sucked into the world of that kind of games, more cinematic, more narrative, and kind of the rest of history.
Right. And I'll have to say that City of Heroes, being a game that I've absolutely loved, is probably the hardest game I have found to get my hands on. I can't buy it off of Amazon unless I want to buy it from somebody who's selling it used, or reseller. And it seems like every time I go to order offline, it seems to be sold out by some degree. I know that you had a big sale recently, and I was like, I'm going to jump on this, and I had to replace the brakes on my car. So I missed that opportunity.
It's true. It's we've had, as an indie kind of a boutique publisher, we do have to plan, when we're bringing in the merchandise, stuff like that, the printed books. The good thing is that now we have just completed a huge reprint.
Awesome.
So pretty much for the next, we hope, 1 to 2 years, everything should be in stock. So
wonderful.
This problem should be solved. You can get it on our site. Some things you can get on Amazon. Some things we sell also on Amazon. But yeah, mostly we do it online. And if you are a retailer, you can always reach out to us, and we do sell to retailers at special prices. So you can, in some stores, you'll be able to find it.
Okay, I like that. I know that especially since the pandemic had shut everything down, people moved to such an online space. I haven't been able to really make it into larger retailers for a while. Smaller retailers are always hit and miss. I mean, I like the shop local mentality too.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. I try to push things that I really enjoy, so people always buy more, get more in. And the independent developer space is really important to me. Primarily because as we look at the game market, a lot of people really look at it as what we call the big two. I mean, you have Wizards of the Coast and Paizo.
Yeah.
And everybody else just sort of gets either forgotten or swept under the rug.
Yeah.
So it's super important for me to talk about smaller developers and great games. One of the things that drew me to this City of Mist in particular was the flavor. I really liked the noir aspect to it. I like the modern setting, and that cinematic feel is really cool. And like you said, you don't have the crunchy feel, but you have the easy flow.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly as well, it is powered by the Apocalypse system.
Yes, it's kind of half. It's a hybrid of powered by the Apocalypse and a tag system. So
Okay.
in most other games in powered by the Apocalypse PBTA, you would have modifiers that you'd add to your rolls, usually stats. But in our game, there are no stats. All you have for your character sheet are tags,
Okay.
and you invoke those tags to get a +1 or a -1, whatever, and depending on the situation, to your modifier. So what you have is something that's completely based on words, context, situation, and it becomes very descriptive because every time you make an action, you're actually tying it to the details of your character,
Okay.
as opposed to the details of your character as represented by numbers and formulas and boxes and things like that.
Right, like you said, the degree in math, you really tried to eliminate that.
Exactly. So I went all the way the other way. But while also, what's important to me, there are other games that do that. It was important to me to keep it a game so that it's fun. It still obviously has some numbers. You count your tags and stuff. And there are like power levels and things like that, but it's kind of all about telling the story of your character.
Okay, I like that. That narrative feel is something I feel that experienced players eventually get to. It seems like the natural progression is you get in, you want to roll the dice, you want to do damage, hack and slash.
Totally.
And as you develop it, you like that narrative, you like that role play, you like the story. And there's so much content right now that is based on sword and sorcery, medieval fantasy.
Yes.
What really pushed you to break into the modern fantasy?
Well, it was just, I really loved this setting. I always liked low level, street level superheroes.
Okay.
I always liked this kind of street level detective. At the time I was inspired by the Marvel Netflix shows.
Okay.
Daredevil, Jessica Jones, these shows. So I really like that. I also wanted to make a game about real people with legendary powers, like
Okay.
ordinary people with legendary powers, and how they kind of engage their everyday life. I actually think that this modern fantasy genre is super popular over the last few years. If you
I would
think
agree.
about TV shows and you think about anything from American Gods to the Umbrella Academy to all of these Marvel shows and Fables and The Wolf Among Us, like there's so much, in that realm of we have our life to deal with as side by side with our powers. So all of this, I really wanted to create it. So I just said, okay, let's do this.
I like that, and I'll have to say, based on the flavor and everything I can pick up on it, unintentionally, I draw parallels to so many things that I like, and I can never seem to describe things by matching it with something that captivates every individual I talk to. I try. I once equated it to the idea of it's similar to the Netflix film Bright with Will Smith. And it turned off a few people because they hated the movie. I'm like, that's a bad. Okay, don't do that again.
Yeah. And also in Bright, your legend is kind of out there. But it kind of reminds me of Shadowrun. Like you are an orc or you are an elf, and you have magic and all these things, and it's out there and it's communicated and it's a part of society. But in City of Mist, your legend is something completely hidden. It's mostly mysterious to even you, and even never mind everyone else. And the mist is kind of covering up, all the legendary So yeah, it's really similar in the feel, though. I agree. Not in the plot line. I agree with some people. It's a very problematic movie.
Yeah.
But,
yes, it is.
Yeah, I know. You kind of always try to find that. It's like this. It's like that, and it's City of Mist is kind of a crossroads of things, so it's hard to pinpoint.
It is, and what's fun for me about this, very particularly, is that it has a pulp feel to it.
Yeah.
And I like that pulp feel. And how you described the character, their legendary abilities being sort of hidden by them is very playing into that pulp idea. Because when you first initially meet your pulp characters, they seem one-dimensional and flat. Mm-hmm. And their revelations come over a period of time. And I think that's really important to portray in stories. So having that in City of Mist is really neat. It's not something you see frequently. And again,
I'm glad you liked it.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you for making it. It is one of those things that it sits on the shelf because my friends don't like to branch out into new systems very often.
That's tough.
It is so hard, and I collect so many game systems that I don't have time to play them all, and I need people who are like, yep, let's learn something new.
I know the feeling, yeah. But there's actually a huge community of players that are playing it, and we're going to expand into something that's sometimes a little bit controversial, but we're thinking, maybe you can tell me what you think about it. There is like Start Playing Games, where people run games, paid games. Mm-hmm. So sometimes people who really want to play but have no one else to play with, they go to these games. Having said that, we do also have a big community, and we have our own Discord server. It's quite big. There's quite a few people there looking for. So we're just, we're trying to help City of Mist players who are definitely out there in terms of numbers find each other.
Oh, I like that.
So that's
I like that.
Important to us as well, that it's played and not just
just collected,
which is great, because I sometimes buy books that I don't have time to play, and I read them and I love them. I'm glad I bought them. Mm-hmm. That's great too. But if people want to play, they should be able to. So
absolutely, and it really sounds like that is a benefit of being a smaller developer. You have the ability to be active yourself in Discord. Just like very similarly, I mentioned that I had reached out through the website just to see if you had a booth here, and you had responded directly. And I did not expect that.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't even think that I would hear anything back until today. But within minutes, and it was around midnight, by the way.
Yeah, we were both kind of post the second day of GenCon. Yeah, so that's the kind of thing that you can do in a small company. I mean, we have maybe 5 people as our core team. We're growing now because we're starting to have more, games to make. So we're branching into. We have an anime, LGBTQ themed game, and we have a cyberpunk game coming. So we need more people. Yep. But it's a small company, so it's still kind of in the startup mentality where a lot of people are doing a lot of things, and it's nicer for me personally because I feel closer to the people who play the game.
Right.
And I mean, you can only imagine how hectic it can be to run a company like that, and you could easily drift away and not be in touch. In fact, just before meeting you, I kind of surprised another City of Mist fan who's running games here, and he was running a full table of 6, and I just walked in, and it was really fun to see the game being played.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I was at the award ceremony on Friday night for the Ennies, and I seen that your one of your products had a nomination.
Yeah, we had 3 nominations.
Yes.
But we didn't get them though.
It's the fact that you were nominated is already incredible.
I agree.
That is amazing. A big feat. Definitely, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's see. I know that I had we talked about that one. I guess I know we've talked about it. The game system itself, and a little bit of the inspiration for that. So outside of City of Mist, what would you consider your favorite game and one of the most influential throughout your entire history?
Ooh. Well, in terms of influential, definitely Apocalypse World was the major turning point for me. It's a game that said, broke a lot of the paradigms of game design, starting with, the MC or the GM doesn't roll the dice.
Right.
What they do is present threats that escalate into consequences, and the focus is on the players trying to stop it, whether on the campaign level or on the scene action level.
Okay.
Where, in City of Mist and other role-playing games based on Apocalypse World, the MC doesn't roll. It's all about storytelling. There are rules and there are actions for the MC, but it's not about measuring how the NPCs do. It's about measuring the actions of randomizing and being interested in the outcome of the PCs. And also the person who run it for me, my GM at the time, he made a strong impression on me. I think that at some point we reached the end of the campaign and it was a big dramatic moment, and we've already been through so much, and I was trying to pull off kind of like my last action for the game.
Yeah.
And it was actually second season, so this was really like a climax, and he just said to me, listen, I'm not going to ask you to roll this. I mean, we're here. This is the end. I mean, you're just going to do it, so describe how you do it.
Okay.
And I thought that was amazing because actually, there in that situation, it wasn't interesting to see me fail.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It wasn't cinematically interesting. If I had failed that role, the game would just continue somehow. There would be another complication, but it was the very end. So he just let me. He said, "You went through this whole way. I'm giving you the stage. Say what happens."
I love that.
Yeah. So it was a big shock for me at the time, and that kind of created Stop Holding Back.
Okay.
Which is a move in City of Mist that is kind of fitting to the setting where you can actually make anything happen if you're willing to sacrifice something equivalent. You do roll the dice, so your sacrifice could be kind of amped up and increased more than you thought, or it could be kind of mitigated.
Right.
Or you can lose control. But because we're talking superpowers or supernatural powers that you can tap into, any player can say, okay, this moment is important to me. And I'm shaping this moment right now, and maybe I'll succeed, maybe not, but I'm willing to pay the price. And the price is equivalent. Like if you want to take down the main villain, you will pay with your life. Know, it's like it's not. If you want to do that, go ahead, and we'll remember your character, forever. But but there are also smaller things that you could do. Like you can take down one of their defensive elements, but you're making a big sacrifice, like something inside you changes. And in City of Mist, we didn't talk about this, but in City of Mist, your character can change so much. You have 4 themes, and you can actually replace some of your power sets and your skills during play.
Really?
Yeah. So, and these themes are divided between your legendary and your ordinary. So when you make those replacements, not only you're switching one of your power sets, but you're also changing the balance of the ordinary and the legendary within you.
Okay.
So, and there are moves that are based on how much you're legendary and how much you're ordinary. So it's really, I'm all about the character development. Like I'm really, I was thinking about moments like for example, in Spider-Man, when he loses someone.
It's okay. It's okay.
Where he loses someone dear to him, like maybe Mary Jane or something like that, or his uncle or something like that, and that opens him up to more powers. Or when something happens to him and he kind of wants to lean back into his ordinary life, he can't do it anymore. Then he kind of puts aside his powers for a while. So it doesn't mean that he doesn't have them, but narratively they matter less. So in this system, roles with those powers will be less powerful because we want to lean into that side, or we want to lean into the opposite side. So yeah, all these elements are all about the narrative, and they're all influenced by these past experiences.
I like that, and I really like the comparison to Spider-Man for a few reasons. You've mentioned that you really enjoy those street level heroes.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man is, I mean, he's top tier of street level heroes, but he's still a street level hero.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man's discovery, I was speaking about this with some movie buffs, because that's another one of my passions. Spider-Man has this huge issue with kind of creating his own problems from bad decisions that just sort of lament how young he really is. The opportunities, like you had mentioned, that are created from him losing somebody, Mary Jane, Gwen Stacy, Uncle Ben, they really bolster the fact that with great power comes great responsibility. And again, he usually loses these individuals by choices and actions he makes. How you describe the character development really seems to play into the same thematic elements. Being able to switch your ability and power sets mid-session to lean in to something heavier or out of something is not common in most games.
It isn't.
I like that, and it's unusual mechanics like that I think really prove there's something deeper than roll dice, do math, do damage.
Yeah, and people love this mechanic. They, the way it's created is that it's in the player's hands. So if you don't want to do it, you can still just level up your themes and stay with the same 4 themes and just improve them, and that's fine. But the game does encourage you to try and go through like transformations, because when you do, you also get a kind of a different type of experience that leads to bigger, upgrades. But people love it. I mean, and it's because, if you like stories, you like character development, the system really kind of, it nudges you towards, it doesn't really push you, but it does definitely nudge you towards character transformations. And I think, people love it because we want to see really interesting stories. And sometimes when your character is just in hack and slash and that's all they're doing, then really the character is just a veneer on a computer game character, which is fine. Like, I like to do that sometimes, but I like telling stories more.
Right.
And so I wanted to build a mechanic that really leaned into that and really allowed people to say, okay, we're playing a game with like a rich story, and we don't have to, the mechanics that we do have are supporting us in that, and we don't have to have all the math and a lot of rolls or a lot of, it's not really the math that's complicated, it's all the small actions that you have to do in the way that are kind of taking you out of the story, I think.
I could agree with that for sure. I've got such an extensive knowledge myself in Dungeons and Dragons. When I got into it, it was 3rd edition. And people look at 3rd edition as sort of the crowning achievement after TSR had failed. And by the end of 12 to 14 years, all of the content, all of the math, all of the modifications, the math was ultimately the easiest part, but it was when to roll dice, how many dice you had to roll, and that's crunchy, the aspect that people wanted to get away from. I think moving to this system powered by the Apocalypse was super smart. I love the cinematic feel, and it's, again, I've mentioned that it's not something people jump on right away. It's something that it seems like more experienced players look for, or something that people try to avoid the numbers, so they look for something different. Again, it's incredible, and what you've done with it is incredible. The theme is fantastic, and
thank you. I did have one player one time, and you have to acknowledge that not everything is for everyone. And I mean, when I say I had one player, I know that this type of player is very common, and it's totally fine. And he said to me, look, I'm gonna have to quit this. It was a playtest, but he said, I'm gonna have to quit this game because he really liked crunchy, structured systems. And he said to me, pretty much every time I take an action in the system, it takes the amount of creativity that I have for a whole session in other settings. And I really liked it because he was really smart, but he's one of these people that think in patterns. And for him, it was, here's how it goes, and I know how the system works, and I know how it runs, and I want to focus on these crunch elements. And to ask him to kind of put together words into a story, every action was tiresome, and I acknowledge that. Like, there are many different, it's great, isn't it? There's so many different players. There's so many different types of games to cater for all of these things. I've seen that one time. I'll have to find it. It's something to do with Robin Law's books. One of his books, there is an absolutely amazing player styles questionnaire.
Okay.
That gives you you get literally like colored bars for each one of the styles.
Really?
So one of them is like tactician, another is a storyteller, another is a method actor, like really getting into the character. Sorry.
It's okay.
And there are just like different things. I found it absolutely amazing. If I could have my way, literally everyone in GenCon would walk around with a badge with those bars on, so that you know like who you're playing with and what they like.
I think that'd be really neat. I'm sure they would take
I don't want
suggestions.
to badge it, and I don't want to label anyone, but like I think it's so good because years later, I remember one time trying to play one of my favorite games that you were asking about is Star Wars, the new one, the FFG, Fantasy Flight Games, Star Wars, and it's based on the Genesis system, or rather, it evolved into the Genesis system.
Yeah.
I really like that you have some spends there. You roll the dice, you get all kinds of results, and you can spend them on different things. That's the main thing that I like. But when I went to play with it the first time online with some people, one of the guys was like, "Listen, we're a team, and we have to know what are our roles, and it has to be very functional. Like you have to do the stealth, you have to do the attacking, I have to do the investigation." And like he was really all into like how are we going to solve problems and how is everyone going to be functional in the team, but like to the max.
Right.
Like if anyone just wanted to try something because their character would do it, but it wasn't like the optimal. Like he was really thinking as a team solving a problem, and that was his way of thinking. That's awesome, and that's very tactical.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Sometimes I like playing like that too. But I find it really interesting this division into, and it's not a division like you're this, you're this, you're this. It's a like a set of bars. I don't know, like so the outcome of the test, like you're a little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So it gives you something super personalized, which I like. Another thing that it showed me is that there's a difference between someone who likes to tell stories and someone who likes to role play. Like a big difference.
Yes.
Have you ever encountered that?
Absolutely. And it's funny to hear it in words because there is such a difference between storytelling and role playing. And getting stuck in the position of a forever DM, I don't have the opportunity to role play as much as I'd like. But you can definitely see it on the other side of the screen. You're like, this player really just likes to kind of tell the story with us or on his own, and this person really likes to emulate his character in depth.
Yeah.
And I have to say that as I love them both because neither one of them are the right way or the wrong way to do it.
Exactly.
But you have to be able to balance that in the setting you're playing and the rule system you're playing with the rest of the table, and that can be a hard to manage plate.
Absolutely.
But I think it's one of those things that if I had to say if I wanted one or the other, I'm going to sound super political here because I love them both. It just depends on what world or system or game I play.
That's true. Yeah,
I mean,
there is definitely that influence, but I do think that we and I think our preferences also changed over time sometimes.
Absolutely agree.
For sure. But I do think there is a kind of an inclination or almost like a personality profile of players that I think is so cool. When I did this test, I looked at their results and it was like story to the max. A little bit of tactician, no power gamer whatsoever.
Okay.
And I forget the other categories, but role playing was like, it was there, but it wasn't as strong as story. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my God, this is the game I made. This is like the profile of City of Mist. It's like you can tell a great story, very cinematic. You got some crunch.
Yep.
Forget about power gaming because this is not the game for it. It just doesn't work. It's not interesting. It's not like how you accumulate power. And there's definitely room for role playing for sure. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I just created the thing that I want to play. So, which makes sense, right?
It does. It's perfect.
And I want to go to all the designers. I'm just so curious about it.
That would be great.
And see if like their systems kind of fulfill their own needs.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that is. It's funny that you say that too, because as you mentioned some of these types, I'm like, I'm a notorious power gamer. I am horrible when it comes to min-maxing. Like, my first thought is absolute optimization. Like, like the rules are there to optimize. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's what I do unintentionally.
No, it's fun. I do it when I play like games that have rules. I totally min-max.
Absolutely. And people yell at me for it. They're like, you just want to win at the game. I'm like, I don't want to win. I want to be efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
And people are, well, I love the idea because people get so mad at min-maxing. And it's funny because what they're looking at is essentially that maximized ability. Like, you just want to be good at that. I'm like, yeah, but I suck at everything else. Yeah. Like, I may be good at combat, but if you throw this social interaction with me, count me out. I'm going to screw this up. Guaranteed. Yeah. And when you mention your City of Mist being that game where overpowered min-maxing is not as efficient possible because it's so story-based driven, it sounds funny when you put it on paper, because it's like, that's not a game Rob is going to really enjoy. But I love it because it's not what I normally do. It forces me to do new things, and it's a dig. I incredibly enjoy it.
Yeah, and it's not like it doesn't have like builds, or you can like, you can try to focus yourself on something. Like, there's definitely more generalist characters where your tags are super broad and of different things, and definitely characters that are more attack focused or social focused, and then you get to roll with like +3, +4, +5 on that thing, but on other things, good luck to you. Right. Like, you have no tags to activate. Right. So there's definitely like crunch in it, which I love, but the whole idea was, I always think of Gandalf in this way, like, can I make a game where Gandalf is a PC, not an NPC? And of course, everybody would just be like, no, Gandalf's an NPC. But if you go for a narrative game, and this is City of Mist, because in City of Mist you have characters that are very close to their legend and have 3 out of 4 of their themes are superpowers, and just 1 of them is human. Okay. And then you have player characters who are very close to their human life. They have 3 out of 4, more like everyday stuff, and 1 theme of superpowers. And then you have those who are balanced 2 and 2. But this is all level 1 characters. Okay. So you can start with a very powerful character, but they're, like you said, they're useless when it comes to interacting with the real life, and that's a thing in City of Mist. And the character who has a lot of real life experience are, maybe they can't fire a blast of fire, out of their eyes or something, but they can do a lot of other things. They can, first of all, they can be very good with guns, so that's useful. Yeah. And, so this whole idea that the stronger character isn't necessarily narratively stronger, because the hobbits are narratively the strongest in the story, right? They do the biggest thing, or the biggest thing, specifically Sam and Frodo. Right. So who's stronger if you look at it from a narrative perspective? So that's what I mean also in the game is there are no power levels here. Yes, you could be super strong, but it doesn't make you control the story more.
Okay. That's a fantastic way to put it. Because it relies less on essentially the environment acting upon the hero because of their position and power abilities, and it really allows the player and their character to act upon the environment. Yeah. And I think that's something that so many individuals kind of miss. And as you had mentioned in the Lord of the Rings idea, it is the Sam, Frodo, the Bilbo, they enact upon the environment in a reactory way. They were the reluctant heroes. Yeah. And as you said, in the narrative, the story form, they were definitely the most powerful in that situation.
They had the biggest effect in the end.
Absolutely.
And they could withstand an incredible power, right?
Absolutely. And
it's crazy, yeah.
I enjoy the Gandalf reference too, because you think, could I build this character? And you're right, in a story narrative, yes. Sometimes I don't think I should have my nerd card, and I'm going to explain this for a second. I never read The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, which is funny because it is smack dab in the middle of my favorite genre, essentially, medieval style fantasy, Middle Earth. But I always thought the premise was really boring. And even as an adult, I like to read a lot of youth writers because the writing is snappy, it's quicker, and Tolkien and a lot of the other adult authors.
Very laborious with their
yes.
with their writing. Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
So not saying.
Did you watch the movies?
No. Yes, I've seen them. I've
From afar.
I have. Again, as a nerd who loves them, I'm like, it's a movie about walking. And
okay, so you're not into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's good. I like it that you totally identified what doesn't work for you in this movie, the walking.
It is. It's boring to me. And the thing is, it's such a great story, but I don't think it needed to be stretched out so long.
Yeah.
So that's where my hit is. And
so just to kind of reflect off of that, I'm going to say my fetish totally is like journey fantasy. It's like, just let me walk.
That is hilarious. It's great, though.
Yeah, I know. It amazes me. It's so beautiful, like the differences.
Yeah.
I like that because in the end, it also, if you have a group that isn't too different, because if you have a group that's too different, it's just not going to work.
Right.
Like I was one time at a group that maxed out my role playing desires. Like they were like role playing every single thing to the detail until after a few sessions, I couldn't actually for another reason join. But I was like, okay, this is not the game for me. I love all of you. You're all my friends. We played years together. But you have found this niche of role playing that I just can't enjoy. I do not want to know what your character feels every second or what they had for breakfast.
Right.
I know there are games like that. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
But if you do have some differences and you can find a common ground, then I think it just creates super creativity in the game.
Yeah, it does.
It's beautiful. You can enjoy beautiful things.
Absolutely. It's a special thing. I remember I was playing in a game with a group of good friends of mine, like you, friends for years, playing together for many years, went through many systems, and never really had many disagreements. It was awesome. We found a game, and the game had a specific character class or archetype. I don't remember what it was called. I don't remember the game, but I remember the player found a particular aspect of this class, and he loved it. Like he had never had it before, and since that particular situation, he has always played incredibly smart, detail-oriented characters who will literally stop the game to bleed every bit of information dry, whether there's information to gain or not. And that is where I started to draw the line. I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I mean, I like things to be a little quicker. I like things to move forward. We're overturning every stone here, and I'm doing nothing while you're investigating.
So he discovered his love for investigation, and then everything for him became about that.
Yes.
It's interesting, right? Because you actually, when you roleplay, just roleplay with whoever you have to roleplay, and maybe you like other things, but you don't know about it until you get exposed to it.
Yep.
So you play along for years. You're sort of having fun, but then you find your jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. That's really funny.
It is. And I know that looking at time here, I wanted to definitely ask, because this is something for me, there are certain genres I'd like to play, and it just seems like I never have an opportunity to. I'm not alone. Everybody has that one, like, God, I wish I could play this. What's your genre that you want to be able to play, but just can never seem to?
Wow. So as you can see, I don't wait for the opportunity. I make the opportunity sometimes.
I like that.
Like it's like, okay, I want to play this. Let's do this. So I haven't many that I haven't played, but I will say that yesterday, just walking around here, I bumped into. I'm usually not a big fan of post-apocalyptic games.
Okay.
It's like, okay, I played one campaign, 2 seasons of Apocalypse World. It was great, loved it, amazing. Don't feel need to go back there. But I was walking on the exhibitors hall, and I bumped into the Mythopoeia, I forget their exact name. They are creators that are kind of, one of them was coached by the creators of Spire.
Okay.
And they created this beautiful book that I just had to get. I'm going to try to conjure up the name, but the beautiful part of it was that it was a verdant post-apocalyptic world where something caused a lot of plantation to growth, a lot of plants and a lot of flora, fauna, everything kind of filled up the world, and humans are fewer, and they're not even the main race.
Okay.
And they're all living like on treetops and surviving in this world. And I thought it was just really beautiful.
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking. But you're
it's
right.
Like the win something. I have in my room. It's like, I don't know if people who listen to this often go to GenCon, but GenCon just like works on your mind because you are blasted with information.
100% of the time.
It just melts your brain.
It does.
You want to remember so many things, and everything just turns into mush.
Yeah.
So, I'll find it and send it to you. You can put it in the show notes or something. But it's
that'd be cool.
It was a really cool concept. I might try and play that.
That's neat. It reminds me of the, and it did when I first heard of it, the Time Traveler, H.G. Wells, the Time Machine.
Yeah.
It's because when he gets to the end of time, it's limited human race, treetop living. I don't know if you'd consider them advanced for the film, but that is exactly what it reminded me of. So I dig that.
Yeah, it's interesting. What's yours?
Space Marines.
Space Marines, like Starship Troopers?
Yeah, actually, to be exact. The kick in the door, blow shit up. And keep moving on.
There are so many things you can use to play that.
There is. My core group of friends are like, I don't want to play Space Marines. Yeah. I'm like, damn it, what are we playing? They're like,
it's tricky though. I know a couple of times that people came up with something. I want to play da da da. I'm like, nah, I don't want to play that.
Yep.
But it happened to me also with Apocalypse World when this GM proposed it, and this was a pivotal moment for me. I was like, okay, whatever. We played last time something I wanted, so I'll play along. Like, I love this group, and it was awesome.
Good.
Sometimes you don't think you might like it, but you will.
Right.
But you do need to come up open-minded or committed group, and it's tricky.
It is, and it's so funny when you say committed, because I mean the biggest joke when it comes to scheduling tabletop games or time to sit down is that they're like, "Yep, we'll see you in 30 years."
Yeah,
that's session 2 though. So that committed group is great.
Yeah,
I really like it.
It's important.
Yeah, absolutely, and I use it as essentially stress relief. It's time for me to hang out with my friends, calm down from the week. Enough to just sort of, I don't want to say turn my brain off because I get to be the DM, but it's chill out time.
Yeah,
and that's
totally,
what I use it as.
Totally.
That's
I like
awesome.
that. So what would you use for Space Marines?
Honestly, I'm really looking for a system that feels right still, and I say that there are so many great systems that deal with space opera or Space Marines. Older Star Wars D6 systems would be great for it. It's a fantastic system. You just reskin it, not a big deal. But my idea of Space Marines, I'm probably going to have to create it, much like you suggest here.
Do it.
just because the fact that I want something that's fast-paced, super easy to follow, super easy to understand, and you can flow through the motions with nothing stopping you. In fact, when I think of Space Marines, I really, Star Troopers comes to mind, and then, I mean, Halo is generally too political for a general bridge of ideas. Gears of War, for another one, is along the same vein. But I love that kick down the door, shoot shit up, and move through like some badass.
Awesome.
That's my favorite play style usually.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
It's a wild ride, but
is like something like Starfinder going to work for you, or is it too technical?
It would work, but again, being the DM, Starfinder is funny because I love Pathfinder. Yeah. And, that is like my primary bread and butter is first edition Pathfinder.
Oh, awesome.
And Starfinder is just different enough where I'm looking at it and like I feel a little confused.
Really?
Really. It's just different enough.
I did not know that.
And I know that I'm not the only one who feels that way, but those of us who do are definitely a minority.
Yeah.
But you're looking at additional mechanics, and I don't mind learning additional mechanics, and it would work, but then it's just, there's my mind simply one-track star, like,
Right. You
kick
just
shit
want the
down.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
You just
shoot
want
it.
the thing. You don't want the whole.
Like, why do I need a captain on the ship? I'm just shooting stuff. Apparently, that's not how space works. It shows my limited knowledge here.
Depends on what. Like in Star Wars, it does. It's like
Right.
anyone can just get in the ship and shoot stuff out.
Right.
You don't need a captain or any skills whatsoever. You can just fly a ship. So.
Right. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it's funny because as I simplify it for that, it's so true. It just, in the back of my mind, what hits me is it says, Rob, all of these games are essentially the same. They're just flavored different.
It's true.
I mean, honestly, I could roll out with a fantasy-based game. I could turn bow and arrows into laser guns.
It's true, but that's the old question of does system matter? And it goes both ways, because the other way is that, you know, you want a system that supports you in your narrative genre. And, you know, the whole, you know, world of games made by Apocalypse World, or powered by the Apocalypse World, that's their thing. You know, they do take that, take a genre and change the game a little bit to work for that genre, and it's all about helping you recreate that. So we're not entirely, our game isn't really a PBTA game 100%, because it has tags, which completely changes it, and it has the theme things that's totally not in other games. But generally, I love games that do their genre well.
Yes.
Like, I heard so much about Star Wars, the D6 one. I don't know how it works. I love the new one. I know that I'm like, you know, it's like, you know, I came to the party too late, so now for me, something that all the D6 people are like, oh, looking at it and don't want to touch it.
Yeah, it happens. That's
Yeah.
In the 1980s, TSR had Marvel superheroes, classic Marvel heroes, and it was a D10 system. Your percentile dices, or you could just ease it up and do a D100. I love the system, and it is such a passion system of mine. It's known as the face rip system. Your 6 primary stats: fighting, agility, psyche, similar in the precursor to modern D20 games. And right now I'm building 3 different games in that system, because it is my favorite system.
Awesome.
And what I liked about it is that it's not just math. It is simply roll the dice, check on a chart, and if you're yellow, green, or red, it's degree of success or failure.
Nice.
And like, boom, you're done.
Oh, that's pretty groundbreaking for the 80s.
It was, and it was simple. And because I'm such a huge superhero fan, I'm like, that's up my alley.
That's great. Meanwhile, in the 80s, they write Hero System, which is like, oh my gosh, it's like buy everything, plan everything, simulate everything down to the smallest detail, and pay for it and multiply it by 1 3/4 and divide it by 2 5/4, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Brutal.
It
and I picked it up at 13, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. You can play anything.
Yeah. Oh man, it reminds me of when I looked at older systems too. Because you're right, like 1 3/4. Like, why am I multiplying by 1.27?
Or dividing by that.
What does that number have to do with?
I know. It's just, we're not joking. This is real.
Yeah.
There is dividing and multiplying by quarters.
Yes. Oh man, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's like people complain about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and the THACO system for AC, which is negative numbers were higher ACs.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, it doesn't make sense now because everybody's used to counting up.
Yeah.
But nope, old games, you did both. You went up and down.
That's fine. You can do that in a game as long as you don't. I think it's those really crazy calculations that I just don't get. It's like, okay. And you know, you build a character. Never mind a character. You'd build a villain. It would take you days. It's just like to calculate 400 points, where they go and how much they cost. And in the end, sometimes it was really annoying because I couldn't even get the effect that I wanted within the points that I wanted to put into it. So because that's the thing with simulationist games. They're great because they make you feel that it's concrete and it's number and it's gamey, but you can't simulate everything. So
Right.
that's when I just started crossing into the narrative and saying, like, I want to tell the story. I don't want to spend hours trying to simulate something and then in play spend so much time on it, resolving every action.
Yes.
It's just going to take me out of the story. And that's exactly like your friend with the investigative stuff. Like, as soon as I realized that what I want is tools for storytelling that also have game elements to them, then that's all that matters. Like, that's what I want to do. And that's what City of Mist, I guess, came out of.
I love that. And like you mentioned, you have a newer project coming up.
Yes.
Tokyo.
Yes, Tokyo Otherscape.
That's right. And that, from what I gathered real quickly, is your kind of a branch into Japanese-themed cyberpunk mix.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's cool. Do you have any other projects you can mention before we wrap up?
There is one project that we've been kind of cooking in secret in a cauldron in the back that's our kind of next-gen system. It's a universal system. We'll probably start with a fantasy, sword and sorcery kind of setting, but the idea is to make it universal. And it's probably going to be launched in 2023, and it's very, very different from anything you've ever thought of an RPG. I can tell you that.
I look forward to checking it out. I will keep in touch to make sure. Again, for our audience members, people can purchase City of Mist and your other products on your website.
Yes, cityofmist.co.com, and you can get everything there.
Perfect. And because this is a special GenCon episode, I'm not going to plug Epic Table Games at the end of this here.
Why not?
Because I'm going to let it close. People know my show.
Okay.
So I'm going to let it just sort of roll with the fact that City of Mist is one of my absolute favorite thematic games. I enjoy it to the absolute max, and I want to get as many people on board as possible.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I love that you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Make way for the paladins. Make way for the paladins. Epic Table Games. Thank you for listening to the Epic Table Games audio show with the Paladins of Podcasts, Rob and Josh. Until next time, stay in touch on Facebook at Epic Table Games and online at epictablegames.com. Epic Table Games.